They had to wait for the
and
television
they knew
product
before Brett Brown knew.
That's right. Bob Cooney said he knew at about 7:30 last night, or 2 nights ago, that the Sixers had the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Brett Brown was on the stage, and I'll start with you, Coach. Number 1, congratulations. But number 2, how much was the anticipation killing you? When they went to commercial break, it was awful waiting through that for all of us watching.
Well, it's a double-edged, I suppose, sword. You need to get to the commercial. Like, there was a chance, that we weren't going to get to the commercial. There was a chance that we could have gotten that 4th pick and never got there. And so, like, you get to the commercial and you're happy, and then I hear you. The wait, although it doesn't maybe seem that long in real time, it seems forever sitting there.
I can only imagine being up on that stage, and then there's the 3 of you guys left over, Boston, L.A., Philadelphia. And think about the history between those 3 franchises waiting here to change their franchises moving forward. What does that pick, getting that pick, mean for your Philadelphia 76ers?
I think it just provides another layer of hope. I feel like we're not a prisoner to another person, another team's decision. It adds to the pieces. I mean, if you really sort of step back and think that we have, another 2 picks in the draft. We get the 1st, the 24th, and the 26th. You have Joel Embiid and Dario Saric that still are ours and still haven't played for the club. You got an existing group of Nerlens Noel, Jahlil Okafor, people like Jeremy Grant and Robert Covington. You got, money to jump into a free agency that we've never really explored as aggressively as we will this year. All over the place, there's just many positives. And so that night just added to what I think is a really strong direction that the club is moving.
Yeah, and, the last couple of days, I'll ask you because you know him better than anybody listening out there. Joel, he seems like he's ready to jump on the court tomorrow. He basically said, hey, number 1 guy, whoever you are, the number 3 guy will be there with you. Is he a little too anxious, or can you say, you know what? I believe that Joel will be on the floor with whoever you take number 1.
I mean, I've said it. I believe that Joel will be on the court with whoever we take in number 1. I think that everything that we're receiving from the doctors and the medical staff, he is on track. He has gone overboard in regards to a professional way that he has handled this personally. I think that setback last year, if there's a phrase, appropriate fear, is it with him? The fact that if he didn't go 100% and wasn't as adamant as he is now, like, you never know. And so he's got a great resource base around him. He's been fantastic. And although it's early days and we're moving slowly, everything is pointing to he will play with the 1st pick.
Coach, people look at this, you guys win the lottery, they say, well, that's great, they're number 1, they can't lose. It's not as easy as that, right?
Well, it isn't. And history says that I'll use the word responsibility, and it is the word. I don't want to deflect from that. There is a huge responsibility to make the correct decision. There are many people that didn't. You look back in time and somebody took Sam Bowie instead of Michael Jordan, or somebody took Greg Oden, instead of Kevin Durant. And there are stories like that all over the place. And all you can do is do what we have been doing for an entire few years since I've been here. Do your due diligence. Do your work. We're gathering intel on people, on different character traits, obviously statistics and analytics, and watching videotape. I'm highly confident with the people we have around the office, Brian coming in, and the resources we had even before Brian, that we will make the right choice.
Coach Brett Brown is with us. Now, Coach, on that, I think it's interesting because you just mentioned someone took Oden over Durant, Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan. And I guess the question is, when this process started, all the draft, Knicks, they all say, well, it's Ben Simmons, it's Ben Simmons, it's Ben Simmons. And Ben's family pretty well. But they get pressured into, I got it, because if Oden's transcendent and we passed on him, we look like, bozos. Is Ben Simmons to that level where it's, if we don't take Ben Simmons and he turns out to be Magic Johnson, LeBron James, or someone on that level, that we look like we made a colossal mistake? Is that something that those teams maybe did, or that goes into the process when you're thinking about who to take?
I mean, there probably, or I'm sure there is a human side of that where, you just get peppered by the tom-toms of the marketplace where they anoint a number one pick, and sometimes it fluctuates. You are right that Ben sort of has held that top spot for the large majority of this year. I have read other mock drafts where Brandon Ingram has come into play. It seems like those two are the only two that have featured at that top spot. I think that with the boldness sort of the league nowadays, that if people feel something and they really have done their homework, that they will not be as influenced. There probably is a portion from that human side, as I said. But I think nowadays with all the data and information, people are going more on that than worried about what the perception might be.
Brett, can you tell us a little about your knowledge of Simmons? I know coaching his father.
Yeah, in the late 80s, I went to Australia and I worked as an assistant coach to Lindsey Gaze, who was just only put into the Naismith Hall of Fame in their professional league. And I was a young coach. I was 25 years old. And in the league, you're able to have two American imports to help complement the Australian content. And David Simmons, Ben's father, was one of our American players, and I coached him for 5 years in the late 80s and early 90s, and just have, an intimate knowledge of his dad. I've known his mother, who he ended up marrying one of the cheerleaders. I mean, you can't really make up this type of story. And the coincidence of being in this position now in 2015 from 2088 are very unusual, but that is the story, and I've known the family and known Ben since he was born.
Brett Brown's with us, and you mentioned Simmons and Ingram. They seem to be the two guys, and obviously I wouldn't expect you to say we like one over the other or we're planning on taking one, but what is it you are looking for? Best fit, best available? It's for so many, the last couple of years, everyone's like, they're just stockpiling big men, and, is it time to start finding positions? Does that play a role in this particular draft? Which one of these guys fits better for your roster?
Oh, I feel confident that we're more there than we were in previous years. You are right. I mean, we effectively drafted 3 5-men, and we did that because we felt like they were the best player available. And in the light of day, we'd do it all again. I think that this year's draft, the higher end of the draft, makes it a lot easier for me to say that no, we're not going to draft or feel like we're pigeonholed into only the best player available. It just so happens that the best players available are also a perfect fit. And so it's easier to make that assessment this year, but we'll have a more balanced team going into the 2016-17 season.
Do you have, at this stage of the game, a guy that sticks out to you more than the other?
It swings. You watch tape, you read research, you study, and it changes. You have different thoughts. There is obviously a personal history I've had with the Simmons family. You have a great respect for Brandon Ingram's background and Coach K. I thought Brandon was fantastic in the individual personal interview we did in Chicago last week. You walked out of that room knowing that somebody raised him well. He was articulate. He was thoughtful. He was intelligent with his comments on different aspects of the game. And then you also are in a position where you talked to Buddy Hield for a while, or Chris Dunn for a while, or Jamal Murray. And those three especially, along with Brandon, when you have the personal interviews with them and their skill package along with it, your head starts to spin. I think as time unfolds, we'll get a clearer vision. But right now, it's fair to say, as a group, there is not one single person we're ready to anoint right now.
Okay, Brett Brown's with us. You drafted Jahlil Okafor last year. I just got an email from the Sixers. He was named to the NBA All-First Rookie Team. And obviously, you just mentioned you drafted 3 5-men. Would you predict, Coach, that all 3 5-men will be with you at the start of the season?
I'm going to give you this answer. I don't want to predict anything. I feel, and it's a fair question. It's a real question. It's stuff that I get asked a lot, and it is something that the club is going to have to figure out. I feel Jerry Colangelo said it best, that it is an extremely high-class problem to have. And, in time, I believe that we will figure it out.
All right. I do want to announce to everybody out there, of course, I just got the ink is just dry, Coach. We have just signed to have the Sixers back on for next season. So, again, we will be your home at the Shore for the Sixers. And with that, I want to tell everybody listening with Coach Brown on the phone, starting next week, you will have a chance to win Sixers season tickets from us.
All right.
We will be giving away a season ticket package so you can see hopefully Joel Embiid, maybe Okafor, Noel, Simmons, Ingram, one of those guys, and Coach Brett Brown. And I know, PT, you have a PT question.
Brett Brown, Coach Brown, I went to high school with Michael Rubin. So I know that's just a little nugget that not many people know. But his daughter, Kylie, is obviously your good luck charm, right?
Yeah, somebody said, I met Kylie for the first time in New York, and Michael is obviously a part of our ownership group, and she sure was passionate. So if she gave us a little extra nudge, we'll take it.
Well, you got that in a little nudge this year. I actually asked this question before you came on, Coach. They say you got the lottery. They finally paid off for you. I don't know that things might have been much different. I don't know. Maybe last year if you had the number one pick, things might have been a little different. I still kind of feel like Joel Embiid would be a Sixer if you had the number one pick a couple of years ago. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, I do. I do. I remember vividly Sam Hinkie coming into my office and saying that Joel Embiid had been injured in his workout in Cleveland. And Joel was my guy. Like, when I started watching him, I just couldn't believe that he was as skilled as he was, as big as he was. And it was like a nasty side to him from a competitive standpoint that I just fell in love with. And with the injury, you knew that his stock would drop. And we got the third pick, and you realized that you also, we actually might be in a position to get him. I mean, even Nerlens, for the large majority of the year prior to his injury, he was anointed, the first pick.
Yeah.
And so, and Jaleel held that trophy for almost 85, 90% of the season. And then, Karl Towns came on maybe more to the end. So we've been in the position, we now actually got the position to not be, a prisoner to somebody else's decision, and we can control our own destiny.
Well, we'll all be highly anticipating draft night, and we know you guys are doing a lot of work, and I know you guys are really excited about the new practice facility opening up as well, and we look forward to the next month leading up to this draft, Coach. We appreciate your time. We know you've been doing the circuit and been all over the place. Thanks for a couple minutes.
Yeah, no, we very much appreciate the partnership.
Absolutely. Coach Brett Brown, everybody.